The October sky over Nashville hung heavy with clouds that threatened rain. But 11-year-old Ethan Cooper didn't care. He sat on the worn wooden steps of his mother's duplex apartment in East Nashville, his father's old acoustic guitar resting across his lap. The instrument was scarred and faded, its finish dulled by years of use. But to Ethan, it was the most precious thing in the world. His fingers moved carefully across the fretboard as he hummed the melody to Chattahoochee, one of his favorite Alan Jackson songs. The guitar was slightly too large for him, making some chord shapes awkward, but he'd been practicing for 3 years, ever since his father, Daniel Cooper, had died in a veterans hospital from complications related to his service in Afghanistan. "Ethan, honey, come inside." His mother's voice drifted through the screen door. Linda Cooper appeared moments later, still wearing her light blue nursing scrubs from the morning shift at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. At 36, she looked older than her years, with premature gray streaks in her brown hair and permanent worry lines etched around her eyes. "You'll catch a cold out here." "Just 5 more minutes, Mom," Ethan replied, looking up with his father's green eyes. "I almost got the bridge part down perfectly." Linda's expression softened. She stepped onto the porch, pulling her cardigan tighter against the chilly October air. "Your dad would be so proud of how well you play." Ethan's fingers paused on the strings. "Do you really think so?" "I know so, baby." She sat down beside him, her hand gently resting on his shoulder. "He always said music was the language of the soul. That's why he wanted you to have his guitar." The duplex they rented sat in a neighborhood that had seen better days. Paint peeled from window frames and chain-link fences separated small yards where children's toys competed with overgrown grass. But it was home, and Linda worked herself to exhaustion to keep it that way. Between her 2 jobs, the morning nursing shift and evening work as a medical records clerk, she barely had time to breathe, let alone worry about the luxuries other families enjoyed. Ethan had learned not to ask for much. He wore hand-me-down clothes from the church donation bin and brought homemade sandwiches to school while other kids bought hot lunches. But he never complained. He understood, even at 11, the sacrifices his mother made every single day. "Mom?" Ethan's voice was hesitant. "Did you hear that Alan Jackson is coming to Nashville? There's going to be a benefit concert at the Bridgestone Arena next month." Linda's face fell slightly. She knew where this conversation was heading. "Sweetheart, those tickets are expensive. We've got the rent coming up, and the car needs new tires before winter." I know," Ethan said quickly, not wanting to add to her burden. "I was just saying. It would be cool, that's all." But it was more than cool. It was a dream. Alan Jackson had been his father's favorite artist, and through those songs, Ethan felt connected to the man he'd lost. When he played Remember When or Drive, it was like having a conversation with his dad, like keeping a piece of him alive. The next morning, Ethan walked to Eastwood Middle School with his backpack slung over one shoulder and his earbuds playing a carefully curated playlist of classic country music. The school building loomed ahead, a brick structure that always made his stomach clench with anxiety. "Look, it's Country Boy Cooper." The voice of Tyler Brennan cut through the morning air like a blade. Tyler was 13, held back a year, and seemed to have made it his personal mission to make Ethan's life miserable. He stood near the bike racks with his crew, Jake Henderson and Chris Paulson, all wearing expensive sneakers and designer hoodies that Ethan could only dream of affording. Ethan kept his head down and tried to walk past, but Tyler stepped into his path. "What are you listening to, Cooper? Let me guess. More grandpa music?" "Leave me alone, Tyler," Ethan said quietly, trying to move around him. But Jake snatched the earbuds from Ethan's ears, holding the phone up so they could all hear. Alan Jackson's voice singing, "It's 5 o'clock somewhere," drifted from the small speakers. The three boys burst into exaggerated laughter. "Oh man, this is sad," Chris howled. "Dude, it's 2025. Nobody listens to this ancient stuff anymore." "My dad liked it," Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper, his cheeks burning with humiliation. "Yeah, well, maybe there's a reason he's not around anymore," Tyler sneered. The words hit Ethan like a physical blow. Before he could stop himself, tears welled in his eyes. He grabbed his phone back and pushed past them, their laughter following him all the way to the school entrance. The day dragged on painfully. In music class, when the teacher, Mr. Gregory Ashford, asked students to share their favorite artists, Ethan stayed silent. He'd made that mistake before, and the teasing had lasted for weeks. Instead, he sat in the back row, doodling musical notes in his notebook and watching the clock. At lunch, he sat alone in the corner of the cafeteria, a spot he'd claimed as his own. Other kids filled the room with noise and energy, forming clusters of friends that seemed as natural as breathing. Ethan unwrapped his peanut butter sandwich and tried to be invisible. "Is anyone sitting here?" A voice startled him. He looked up to see a girl with curly red hair and freckles across her nose. She wore glasses with bright purple frames and carried a lunch tray loaded with pizza and fruit. No," Ethan managed, surprised. She sat down with a friendly smile. "I'm Olivia Patterson. I just moved here from Memphis. I saw what those jerks did to you this morning. That was really messed up." Ethan shrugged, not sure how to respond. People didn't usually go out of their way to talk to him. "So you like country music?" Olivia asked, biting into her pizza. "That's actually pretty cool. My grandpa plays bluegrass, and he taught me some fiddle when I was little." For the first time all day, Ethan felt himself relax slightly. "Really? You play fiddle?" "Not anymore. We had to sell it when my dad lost his job. That's why we moved here. My mom got work at the hospital." She paused, studying him. "But I miss it. Music, I mean. It's like, I don't know, it's like it says things words can't." "Exactly." Ethan's face lit up. "That's exactly what my dad used to say." They talked through the rest of lunch, and for the first time in months, Ethan didn't feel completely alone. Olivia told him about her old school in Memphis, her two younger brothers, and her love for old classic films. Ethan shared stories about learning guitar and his dream of maybe, someday, playing music professionally. "You should play something for me sometime," Olivia suggested as the bell rang. "I'd love to hear you." "Maybe," Ethan said, but he was smiling. That afternoon, walking home under gray skies that finally opened up with rain, Ethan didn't mind getting wet. He thought about Olivia's kindness, about the way she'd understood immediately why music mattered. And he thought about that concert, about Alan Jackson playing live in Nashville, just miles from where he lived. When he got home, soaked through, his mother was already there, having finished her morning shift. She took one look at him and grabbed a towel. "Good grief, Ethan, you're drenched." "I'm okay, Mom." He accepted the towel and dried his hair. "Actually, I made a friend today. Her name's Olivia." Linda's face brightened with genuine joy. "Sweetheart, that's wonderful. Tell me about her." Over dinner, spaghetti with jarred sauce, simple but filling, Ethan told his mother about his day, carefully editing out the morning bullying incident. He focused on Olivia, on music class, on the math test he thought he'd done well on. Linda listened with the kind of attention that only a parent who truly cares can give, asking questions and celebrating small victories. Later that night, after Linda left for her evening shift at the records office, Ethan sat in his small bedroom with his father's guitar. The walls were covered with hand-drawn posters of country music legends and a faded photograph of his father in military uniform young and smiling, before the war had changed him. Ethan played quietly, working through the chord progressions he'd been practicing. Through his window, he could see the lights of downtown Nashville glowing in the distance, like a promise of something bigger and brighter. Somewhere out there, plans were being made for that benefit concert. Somewhere out there, Alan Jackson was preparing to come to this city. And Ethan Cooper, sitting in his small room with his father's guitar, made a decision. He would find a way to get to that concert. Not just to see his hero perform, but because something deep inside told him it was important. He didn't know why yet, couldn't explain the feeling even to himself, but he trusted it. He opened his notebook and started writing, pouring his thoughts onto paper in the form of a letter. The words came slowly at first, then faster, as if they'd been waiting inside him all along. It wasn't a letter asking for anything for himself. It was something else entirely, something that would change everything. Outside, the rain continued to fall on Nashville, washing the streets clean and filling the air with the smell of wet asphalt and autumn leaves. And in that small bedroom in East Nashville, a boy with a dream began to believe that maybe, just maybe, miracles could happen in the most unexpected ways. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of school days and solitary evenings. Ethan's friendship with Olivia Patterson grew stronger with each passing day. They ate lunch together, walked the same hallways, and shared a mutual understanding that made the world feel slightly less hostile. Olivia had a sharp sense of humor that could make Ethan laugh even on his worst days. And she never made him feel weird about his love for country music. "My grandpa would have loved you," she told him one afternoon as they sat in the library during study hall. "He always said that young people who appreciate the old songs have old souls." "Is that a good thing?" Ethan asked, looking up from his math homework. "The best thing," Olivia assured him. "It means you understand that some things are worth holding on to, even when everyone else moves on." But the bullying from Tyler Brennan and his friends hadn't stopped. If anything, it had intensified. They'd started calling him Hee-Haw and making exaggerated country accents whenever he walked by. In gym class, Ethan was always picked last for teams. In the hallways, shoulders bumped him hard enough to knock his books loose. Small cruelties that added up day after day. Ethan didn't tell his mother. She had enough to worry about without adding his social problems to her plate. Instead, he absorbed it silently, letting the music be his refuge. Every afternoon, he came home to his father's guitar and played until his fingers hurt. One evening in late October, as Linda was getting ready for her night shift, she noticed Ethan counting coins at the kitchen table. Pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters were sorted into small stacks, and he was recording numbers in a notebook with intense concentration. "What are you doing, honey?" she asked, pulling on her work shoes. "Just organizing my money," Ethan said vaguely. Linda sat down across from him, her expression gentle but knowing. "This is about that concert, isn't it?" Ethan's cheeks flushed. "I thought maybe I could earn enough. Mrs. Hutchinson next door said she'd pay me $5 to rake her leaves. And Mr. Chen at the corner store said I could help unpack deliveries on Saturdays for $10 each time." His mother's eyes filled with a mix of pride and sadness. "Baby, those tickets are $75 each. Even with all that work, you'd need months to save up that much." "The concert's on November 16th. Ethan said quietly. "That's 3 weeks away. If I work every day after school and all day Saturdays, I can do it. I already have $23 saved." Linda reached across the table and took her son's hand. The gesture was tender, but Ethan could feel the calluses on her palms from years of hard work. "Ethan, I wish I could just buy you that ticket. I wish I could give you everything you want. But right now, I know, Mom, I'm not asking you for anything. I'm going to earn it myself." The determination in his voice made Linda's heart ache. Her son had grown up too fast, forced into maturity by circumstances no child should have to face. She wanted to tell him that 11-year-olds should be asking their parents for toys and video games, not working odd jobs to afford their own dreams. But she also knew that saying so would only make him feel guilty for wanting something at all. "Okay," she said finally, "but you keep up with your schoolwork first. Deal?" "Deal." Ethan's face broke into a genuine smile, the first she'd seen in days. True to his word, Ethan threw himself into work. Every afternoon after school, he went to Mrs. Beverly Hutchinson's house, a widow in her 70s who lived 2 doors down. Her yard was covered in fallen leaves from massive oak trees, and Ethan raked them into neat piles, bagged them, and hauled them to the curb. His arms ached, and blisters formed on his palms, but he didn't complain. Mrs. Hutchinson would bring him lemonade and homemade cookies, watching from her porch with a soft smile. "You're a good boy, Ethan Cooper," she told him one afternoon. "Your daddy would be mighty proud." On Saturdays, he showed up at Chen's Corner Market at 7 in the morning, helping Mr. David Chen unpack delivery trucks and stock shelves. The work was physical and demanding, and by the end of each shift, Ethan's back hurt and his legs felt like rubber. But Mr. Chen paid him fairly, and sometimes threw in an extra $1 or $2, along with a free sandwich for lunch. "You work harder than boys twice your age," Mr. Chen observed, his Korean accent softening his words. "Why you need this money so bad?" Ethan explained about the concert, about Alan Jackson, about his father's love for the music. Mr. Chen listened thoughtfully, then nodded. "Good reason. Music feeds the soul. You keep working hard, and you'll get there." Olivia helped in her own way. She spread the word at school that Ethan was available for odd jobs, and soon other opportunities trickled in. He washed cars for neighbors, walked dogs, and even helped an elderly man named Vincent Carmichael clean out his garage. Every dollar went into a mason jar that he kept hidden under his bed. And every night, he counted his growing savings with a mixture of hope and anxiety. 2 weeks before the concert, Ethan had $58. He was close, so close, but time was running out. The physical exhaustion was catching up with him. He fell asleep over his homework and struggled to stay awake in class. His grades started to slip, and his teachers noticed. "Ethan, can you stay after class for a moment?" Mrs. Jennifer Wallace, his English teacher, asked one Friday afternoon. He waited nervously as the other students filed out. Mrs. Wallace was young, probably in her late 20s, with kind eyes and a reputation for actually caring about her students. She sat on the edge of her desk and looked at him with concern. "I've noticed you've been falling asleep in class this week," she said gently. "And your last essay was well below your usual standard. Is everything okay at home?" "Everything's fine," Ethan said quickly. "I've just been busy." "Busy with what?" He hesitated, then figured there was no harm in telling her. He explained about the concert, the jobs, the race against time to earn enough money. Mrs. Wallace listened without interrupting, her expression growing more thoughtful. "That's very admirable, Ethan," she said when he finished. "But your education has to come first. If your grades drop, your mother will worry. And I'm guessing you don't want that." "No, ma'am." She studied him for a long moment, then made a decision. "I have a proposition for you. My husband and I are renovating our house, and our yard is a disaster. If you can come over this Sunday and help clean it up, I'll pay you $30. That should get you close to your goal." Ethan's eyes widened. "Really? You'd do that? Really? But in exchange, I need you to promise that you'll catch up on your sleep and get your schoolwork back on track." "Deal? Deal!" Ethan practically shouted, then caught himself. "I mean, yes, ma'am. Thank you so much." That Sunday, Ethan worked harder than he ever had. Mrs. Wallace and her husband, Robert, lived in a modest house in Sylvan Park, and their yard needed serious attention. Ethan pulled weeds, trimmed bushes, hauled away debris, and edged the lawn until every border looked crisp and clean. The couple worked alongside him, and they shared lunch on the back porch. Fried chicken, potato salad, and sweet tea that tasted like sunshine. "You're quite the worker," Robert Wallace observed. He was a contractor, tall and muscular from years of physical labor. "Ever think about getting into landscaping? You've got a good eye for it." "I want to be a musician," Ethan admitted, then felt embarrassed, like he'd revealed too much. But Robert just nodded seriously. "That's a fine goal. This world needs more music, needs more beauty." When the day was done, and Mrs. Wallace handed Ethan 3 crisp $10 bills, he felt like he was holding treasure. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You have no idea what this means." "I think I do," Mrs. Wallace replied, her smile warm. "Now you go to that concert and have the time of your life. You've earned it." That night, Ethan counted his money for the 100th time. $88. He had $88, which was more than enough for a ticket. He sat on his bed, staring at the mason jar, and felt a wave of accomplishment wash over him. He'd done it. Through hard work and determination, he'd earned his dream. The next morning at school, he told Olivia the good news. They were in the library during lunch, sitting at their usual table by the window that overlooked the parking lot. "That's amazing, Ethan." Olivia's face lit up with genuine happiness. "You really did it. When are you buying the ticket?" "Today after school. There's a ticket outlet downtown that my mom said she'd take me to." "This is so cool. You're going to see Alan Jackson live." She paused, then added quietly, "I wish I could go too. I've never been to a real concert." Ethan looked at his friend, at the wistfulness in her expression, and felt a pang of guilt. Olivia had been nothing but kind to him, had stood by him when no one else would. And here he was celebrating something she couldn't afford either. Her family was struggling just like his, maybe even more so with her father out of work. Maybe there's a way," he said slowly, an idea forming. "If I could find more work this week, maybe I could earn enough for 2 tickets." "Ethan, no. That's your dream. You worked so hard for this. But you're my friend. And friends share good things, right?" Olivia's eyes glistened with tears. She quickly blinked away. "You're too nice, you know that? Is that a bad thing?" "No," she said softly. "It's the best thing." But before Ethan could pursue more work, fate intervened in an unexpected way. That afternoon, as he walked home from school, he passed by a community center where a flyer caught his eye. "Benefit concert volunteers needed. Free admission to volunteers." His heart raced as he read the details. The Alan Jackson concert was raising money for homeless veterans, and they needed volunteers to help with various tasks on the day of the event. In exchange for 4 hours of volunteer work, each person would receive free admission. Ethan grabbed 2 volunteer sign-up forms and ran home faster than he'd ever run in his life. This was it. This was the answer. He and Olivia could both go, and he'd still have his saved money. Money that, he was realizing, could be used for something even more important than a concert ticket. Because late at night, when he couldn't sleep, Ethan had been thinking about Tyler Brennan and the other bullies. He'd been thinking about the kids at school who came from broken homes, who wore the same clothes every day, who sat alone at lunch just like he had before Olivia came along. And an idea had been growing in his mind, taking shape slowly but surely. What if the concert wasn't the end goal? What if it was just the beginning of something much bigger? That night, Ethan pulled out the letter he'd been writing to Alan Jackson and read it over again. Then he made some changes, adding new details, refining his request. It was bold, maybe even crazy, but it felt right. It felt like something his father would have done, something selfless and brave. When his mother came home from work, exhausted and barely able to stand, Ethan made her sit down while he heated up the dinner he'd prepared himself. Just spaghetti and jarred sauce, but he'd added garlic bread from the dollar store and a simple salad. "What's all this?" Linda asked, touched by the gesture. "I wanted to do something nice for you," Ethan said. "You work so hard for us." As they ate together, Ethan told her about the volunteer opportunity and his plan to attend the concert that way. Linda's relief was visible. She'd been worrying about him spending all his hard-earned money on one night of entertainment. "That's very smart, honey," she said. "I'm proud of you." "Mom?" Ethan's voice was hesitant. "If I didn't spend that money on a ticket, would it be okay if I used it for something else? Something important? What did you have in mind?" Ethan took a deep breath and began to explain his plan. As his mother listened, her expression shifted from curiosity to surprise, to something deeper. A profound pride mixed with the kind of love that transcends words. When he finished, she reached across the table and took both his hands in hers. "Ethan Daniel Cooper," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "You have your father's heart. Do you know that? Is that a yes?" "That's absolutely a yes." Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she was smiling. "Whatever you need, whatever I can do to help, I'm there. Always." In that moment, sitting in their small kitchen with mismatched chairs and chipped plates, Ethan felt rich beyond measure. Not because of the money in the mason jar under his bed, but because he had a mother who believed in him and a purpose that felt bigger than himself. The concert was 12 days away, and Ethan Cooper had a plan that would change everything. The Bridgestone Arena loomed like a modern coliseum in downtown Nashville, its distinctive shape a landmark visible from blocks away. On November 16th, the Saturday of the concert, the streets surrounding the venue buzzed with energy. Fans wearing cowboy hats and boots streamed toward the entrances, their excitement palpable in the crisp autumn air. Vendors sold T-shirts and posters, and somewhere a street musician played guitar, his case open for tips. Ethan and Olivia arrived 3 hours before showtime, dressed in matching volunteer T-shirts they'd received the week before. Linda had driven them downtown, and before they got out of her old Honda Civic, she'd pulled Ethan into a tight hug. "Be safe, be smart, and have the best time of your life," she whispered into his hair. "I love you so much." "Love you too, Mom." Olivia squeezed Linda's hand. "Thank you for letting me be part of this, Mrs. Cooper." "Thank you for being such a good friend to my son," Linda replied, her eyes warm. The volunteer coordinator, an energetic woman named Patricia Donnelly, met them at the volunteer entrance with a clipboard and an enormous smile. "You two must be Ethan and Olivia. Right on time. I like that." She had short gray hair and wore a headset that made her look official and slightly intimidating. "You're assigned to the merchandise table in the main lobby. Your job is to help fold shirts, restock inventory, and assist customers if the main staff gets overwhelmed. Sound good?" "Yes, ma'am," they both answered. The next few hours flew by in a whirlwind of activity. The merchandise area was chaos, hundreds of people crowding around tables laden with T-shirts, hats, CDs, and posters. Ethan and Olivia worked steadily, keeping the displays organized and helping elderly fans who couldn't reach items on higher shelves. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation, and being part of it, even in a small way, felt magical. During a brief lull, Olivia nudged Ethan. "This is incredible. I can't believe we're really here." "I know," Ethan agreed, grinning. "And the concert hasn't even started yet. But beneath his excitement, Ethan's heart hammered with nervous anticipation about what he planned to do later. Folded carefully in his back pocket was the letter. 3 pages written in his neatest handwriting, sealed in an envelope addressed simply to Alan Jackson. He'd read it so many times he had it memorized, but he still worried. Would it be enough? Would anyone even let him deliver it? At 6:30, Patricia Donnelly returned. "All right, volunteers, you've done an amazing job. Your seats are in section 104, rows K and L. Head up whenever you're ready. The show starts at 7:30. Ethan's stomach clenched. "Ms. Donnelly, I have a question." "Shoot, kiddo. Is there any way, would it be possible to give something to Mr. Jackson? Like a letter?" Patricia's expression softened. "Oh, honey, I understand. A lot of fans want to do that. But Alan doesn't do meet and greets at benefit shows. His schedule's too tight, and security's pretty strict." Ethan's face fell. "Oh, okay." She studied him for a moment, taking in his disappointment. "Tell you what, you can leave the letter with me, and I'll make sure it gets to his tour manager. I can't promise he'll read it, but at least it'll get into the right hands." It wasn't what Ethan had hoped for, but it was something. "Thank you, Ms. Donnelly. Call me Patricia." She smiled. "Now go enjoy the show. You earned it." Ethan and Olivia found their seats, which had a surprisingly good view of the stage. The arena was filling rapidly, thousands of people finding their spots amid a crescendo of conversation and laughter. The lights dimmed slightly, and the crowd's energy ratcheted up another notch. "This is really happening," Olivia whispered, gripping Ethan's arm. "We're about to see Alan Jackson." When the lights finally went down completely, and the opening band took the stage, the crowd erupted. Ethan felt the music vibrate through his chest, felt the collective joy of thousands of people united by their love of country music. It was overwhelming in the best possible way. The opening act was good, a young singer-songwriter named Danny Price, who played a heartfelt set of original songs. But everyone was waiting for the main event. When the stage crew began setting up for Alan Jackson, the anticipation became almost unbearable. Finally, at 8:15, the lights dropped to blackness. A single spotlight hit center stage, and there he was, Alan Jackson, wearing his signature white cowboy hat, holding a guitar, looking exactly like the photos Ethan had taped to his bedroom walls. The crowd went absolutely wild. Alan launched into Chattahoochee, and the entire arena sang along, including Ethan, who knew every word by heart. Tears streamed down his face, and he didn't care. This was everything he'd dreamed of, and more. Beside him, Olivia was dancing in her seat, laughing with pure joy. Song after song, Alan delivered a masterclass in country music. Drive had parents hugging their kids. Remember When had couples swaying together. Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning brought a reverent silence and more than a few tears as people remembered September 11th and other losses they'd endured. During Small Town Southern Man, Ethan thought about his father, a small-town boy from rural Tennessee who'd joined the military out of a sense of duty and paid the ultimate price. The song felt like it was written for Daniel Cooper and all the other men and women like him. Midway through the show, Alan paused to talk about the benefit's purpose. "This concert tonight is raising money for homeless veterans," he said, his voice serious. "These are men and women who served our country, who sacrificed, and who deserve better than to be living on the streets. Every ticket sold, every piece of merchandise bought, it all goes to programs that provide housing, job training, and support for these heroes." The crowd applauded, and Alan continued, "I know a lot of you here tonight have served, or have family who serve. This cause is personal to me. My father was a veteran, and I've seen firsthand how hard the transition back to civilian life can be. So thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. And let's make some noise for our veterans." The arena shook with cheers and applause. Ethan clapped until his hands hurt, thinking about his dad, about the veterans who'd been his father's friends and had attended his funeral with haunted eyes and rigid salutes. During the intermission, Ethan made a decision. He couldn't just leave his letter with Patricia and hope for the best. He needed to try harder. This was too important. "I'll be right back," he told Olivia. "Where are you going?" "Just to the bathroom. I'll be quick." Instead, Ethan navigated through the crowds toward the backstage area. He'd noticed earlier where the crew entered and exited, and he figured if he could just get close enough, maybe he could hand his letter to someone, anyone, who might actually give it to Alan Jackson. Security guards stood at every access point, large men with earpieces and stern expressions. Ethan approached one who looked slightly less intimidating than the others, a middle-aged man with a graying beard. "Excuse me, sir? I have a letter for Mr. Jackson. Is there any way I could give it to someone on his team?" The guard looked down at him with practiced disinterest. "Sorry, kid. No unauthorized access. If you want to send him something, go through his official fan mail address." "But I'm here now, and it's important. Rules are rules." The guard's tone was final. Defeated, Ethan turned away. He'd tried. He'd really tried. Maybe it just wasn't meant to be. Maybe his plan was too ambitious, too unrealistic for an 11-year-old kid from East Nashville. He was walking back toward his seat when he literally collided with someone. A tall man in his 30s, wearing an all-access badge and carrying an equipment bag. "Whoa, sorry there, buddy," the man said, steadying Ethan with one hand. "You okay?" "I'm fine. Sorry, I wasn't watching where I was going." The man studied him for a moment. "You look upset. Everything all right?" And maybe it was the kindness in his voice, or maybe Ethan was just emotionally overwhelmed. But suddenly, the words came pouring out. He told this stranger about his father, about working odd jobs to earn money for the concert, about the letter and his plan, and how he couldn't seem to get it to Alan Jackson. The man listened without interrupting. When Ethan finished, he held out his hand. "I'm Michael Chambers. I'm Alan's guitar tech. Let me see that letter." With shaking hands, Ethan pulled the envelope from his pocket and handed it over. Michael turned it over, examining it thoughtfully. "This is really important to you, isn't it?" he asked. "Yes, sir. More than anything." Michael made a decision. "I can't promise he'll read it tonight. He's got a tight schedule. But I'll put this in his dressing room with his personal items. That's the best I can do." "Really?" Hope flared in Ethan's chest. "You'd do that?" "Yeah, kid. I would." Michael smiled. "Your dad was a veteran?" "Yes, sir. He died 3 years ago." "Then this is for him, too." Michael tucked the letter into his equipment bag carefully. "What's your name?" "Ethan Cooper." "Well, Ethan Cooper, you go enjoy the rest of the show. And who knows? Maybe miracles happen." Ethan made it back to his seat, just as the lights were dimming for the second half. Olivia gave him a questioning look, but he just shook his head and smiled. He'd done everything he could. The rest was out of his hands. The second half of the concert was even better than the first. Alan played deep cuts that longtime fans screamed for, mixed with new material that showcased his evolving artistry. During It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere, the entire arena felt like one big party. During When Somebody Loves You, the mood turned tender and intimate. As the show built toward its conclusion, Alan returned to the stage alone with just an acoustic guitar. The massive arena fell silent. "I want to do something special tonight," Alan said, his voice carrying clearly despite the lack of microphone amplification. This last song is dedicated to all the fathers and sons out there, all the families who've sacrificed, and all the people who keep fighting even when life gets hard. He began playing Drive, and Ethan felt his heart shatter and heal simultaneously. It was his father's favorite song, the one Daniel used to sing when he tucked Ethan into bed, back before the nightmares and the hospital stays, back when he was just Dad. I was a boy, just like you once, and I know that it's hard to be patient when you want to grow up, want to take your old man's place. I was sitting there doing 60. It wasn't really going that fast, but I looked in the rearview mirror, and I saw myself when I looked at you. Ethan sobbed openly, and he wasn't alone. All around the arena, people were crying, holding each other, remembering their own fathers and children, and precious moments that could never be recaptured, but would never be forgotten. When the song ended, the applause was thunderous and sustained. Alan stood, tipped his hat, and said simply, "Thank you, Nashville. God bless you all, and God bless our veterans." The lights came up, and slowly, the crowd began to file out. Ethan sat in his seat, unable to move, overwhelmed by emotion. Olivia put her arm around his shoulders and just sat with him, not saying anything, just being present. "Thank you," Ethan finally managed, "for being here, for being my friend." "Always," Olivia promised. As they made their way toward the exits with the thinning crowd, Ethan didn't know if Alan Jackson would ever read his letter. He didn't know if his plan would work, or if he'd just been a foolish kid with an impossible dream. But he'd tried. He'd stood up for something he believed in. And somehow, that felt like enough. What Ethan didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that at that very moment, in a quiet dressing room backstage, Alan Jackson was opening an envelope and beginning to read a letter that would change not just Ethan's life, but the lives of hundreds of people across Nashville. The real story was just beginning. 4 days passed after the concert, and life returned to its normal rhythm. Ethan went to school, endured Tyler Brennan's bullying, ate lunch with Olivia, and came home to practice his father's guitar. He tried not to think too much about the letter, tried not to build up hope that would inevitably lead to disappointment. After all, Alan Jackson was an international superstar. What were the chances he'd even seen the letter, let alone cared about it? On Wednesday afternoon, Ethan was walking home from school when he noticed an unfamiliar black SUV parked in front of his duplex. His first thought was worry. Had something happened to his mother? But then he saw Linda standing on the porch, very much alive and looking stunned, talking to 2 men in casual but expensive-looking clothes. "Ethan!" his mother called out when she spotted him. "Honey, come here. These gentlemen are from—" "Well, they work with Alan Jackson." Ethan's backpack slipped from his shoulder and hit the ground. He walked forward in a daze, his heart hammering so hard he thought it might burst from his chest. The older of the 2 men stepped forward with an easy smile. He was in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair, and the weathered face of someone who'd spent years on the road. "You must be Ethan. I'm Paul Garrett, Alan Jackson's tour manager. And this is Jesse Hammond, his personal assistant." Jesse, younger and wearing glasses, gave a friendly wave. Yes, sir. I'm Ethan Cooper." His voice came out barely above a whisper. Paul pulled a familiar envelope from his jacket pocket. Ethan's letter. Alan read this on Saturday night after the concert. Then he read it again Sunday morning. And Monday, he called an emergency meeting with his team. "Ethan, what you wrote." It moved him deeply. It did? Ethan could barely process what he was hearing. "It really did," Jesse confirmed. "Alan gets a lot of mail, thousands of letters a year. But yours stood out because it wasn't about you. You didn't ask for an autograph or a meeting or anything for yourself. You asked for something for others." Linda moved to stand behind her son, her hands on his shoulders. "What exactly did Ethan ask for?" Paul smiled. "Maybe he should tell you himself." "Ethan, why don't you explain what you wrote in your letter?" Ethan swallowed hard, feeling all eyes on him. I asked Mr. Jackson if he would help me start a music program at my school for kids who can't afford instruments or lessons, kids who get bullied for liking music, or who don't have anyone teaching them, or who just need something good in their lives." His mother's hands tightened on his shoulders. "Ethan, I told him about Dad," Ethan continued, his voice gaining strength, "about how music was what helped Dad deal with his PTSD and how it's what helps me now. I told him about kids at my school who are struggling, who are angry or sad or lost. And I said that if just one kid could have what I have, a guitar, someone who cares, a reason to hope, then maybe it would make a difference." Paul nodded slowly. "You also offered to donate the money you had earned, $88, to start the fund. That's every penny you made working those jobs, isn't it?" "Yes, sir." "Ethan," Jesse said gently, "do you have any idea what instruments and a music program would actually cost?" "More than $88, Ethan admitted, his cheeks flushing. "I know it was probably stupid to even ask, but I don't know what I thought. I just had to try." "It wasn't stupid," Paul said firmly. "It was brave. And it was exactly the kind of thing that makes Alan remember why he got into music in the first place. To make a difference, to connect with people, to give them something meaningful." Linda spoke up, her voice shaking slightly. "Are you saying that Mr. Jackson is going to help?" The two men exchanged a look, and matching grins spread across their faces. "Ma'am, Alan doesn't do anything halfway. He's not just going to help, he's going all in." Over the next hour, sitting in the Coopers' small living room with mismatched furniture and water-stained walls, Paul and Jesse laid out a plan that sounded like something from a dream. Alan Jackson wanted to fund a complete music program at Eastwood Middle School. He would donate instruments, guitars, keyboards, drums, even some band instruments like trumpets and clarinets. He would pay for a part-time music instructor to work specifically with students who showed interest but couldn't afford private lessons. He would create a scholarship fund for students who wanted to pursue music seriously. But it didn't stop there. "Alan wants to expand this beyond just your school," Paul explained. "He's talking to the Nashville School District about creating similar programs at 5 schools in underserved areas. He's calling it the Daniel Cooper Memorial Music Initiative, in honor of your father." Ethan felt like the room was spinning. "He's naming it after my dad? Your letter talked about how your father believed music could heal wounds that medicine couldn't touch," Jesse said softly. "Alan wants to honor that belief. And Ethan, there's more. Alan wants to do a kickoff event at your school. A small assembly where he'll perform a couple songs, talk to the kids about music and its importance, and officially launch the program." "Alan Jackson is coming to my school?" Ethan's voice cracked. "To Eastwood? Next Friday. We're working with your principal right now to set everything up." Paul leaned forward. "But here's the thing, Ethan. This is all because of you. You had the courage to ask for something bigger than yourself. Alan wants you to be part of this, to help choose which instruments to buy, to give input on how the program should work. He wants your voice in this because you understand what these kids need." Linda was openly crying now, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know what to say. It's overwhelming." "Say yes," Jesse suggested, with a kind smile. "Say you'll let us do this." "Yes," Linda managed. "Of course, yes, thank you. Thank you so much." After Paul and Jesse left, with promises to return with contracts and details. Ethan and his mother sat together on the couch in stunned silence. Finally, Linda pulled her son into a fierce hug. "Your father is so proud of you right now," she whispered. "Wherever he is, he's smiling. I know it." The next day at school, Ethan moved through the hallways in a daze. He wanted to tell Olivia, but Paul had asked him to keep things quiet until the official announcement. The secret felt like it might burst out of him at any moment. At lunch, he sat with Olivia at their usual table, trying to act normal. But she knew him too well. "Okay, what's going on?" she demanded. "You look like you're about to explode." "I can't tell you yet, but soon, I promise. Soon you'll understand." "You're being really weird, Ethan Cooper." "I know. Just trust me." On Friday morning, students at Eastwood Middle School were surprised to find a special assembly called for last period. Rumors flew wildly through the halls. A famous author was visiting, or they were announcing a new sports program, or someone had won a major award. Tyler Brennan cornered Ethan by his locker. "Hey, country boy, you know what this assembly's about?" For once, Ethan didn't shrink away. He looked Tyler straight in the eye and smiled. "Actually, I do, and you're going to want to be there." Something in Ethan's expression made Tyler step back, confused. "Whatever, weirdo." At 2 o'clock, the entire school filed into the gymnasium. Ethan sat in the front row with Olivia, his mother having gotten special permission to attend. Principal Dorothy Henderson stood at the podium looking unusually excited. "Students, faculty, we have an extraordinary announcement today," she began. "Eastwood Middle School has been selected for a very special honor, thanks to one of our own students." She gestured to Ethan, and suddenly hundreds of eyes were on him. He felt his face burn. Ethan Cooper wrote a letter to country music legend Alan Jackson, asking not for anything for himself, but for resources to help his fellow students. That letter inspired Mr. Jackson to create a music initiative that will benefit this school and others across Nashville. And today, Mr. Jackson is here to tell you about it himself. The gymnasium erupted in shocked screams and applause as Alan Jackson walked onto the gym floor, guitar in hand, wearing jeans, boots, and his signature white cowboy hat. He waved to the stunned students, then made his way to the microphone. "Hey there, Eastwood!" His voice boomed through the speakers. "Y'all didn't expect this today, did you?" More screams. Teachers were crying. Students were standing on the bleachers, phones out, recording everything. Alan let the excitement die down before continuing. "I'm here because of a young man named Ethan Cooper. Ethan, can you stand up for me?" On shaking legs, Ethan stood. The applause was deafening. "This kid," Alan said, pointing at Ethan, "wrote me the most incredible letter I've ever received. He didn't ask for a signed guitar or backstage passes. He asked me to help kids who need music in their lives. Kids who are struggling, who need an outlet, who need to know that somebody cares. And that, folks, is what real courage looks like." He gestured for Ethan to come up to the front. Somehow, Ethan's legs carried him there. Alan shook his hand, then kept holding it, addressing the crowd. "Starting today, Eastwood Middle School has a fully funded music program. We've got guitars, keyboards, drums, and more arriving next week. We've got a professional music instructor starting in January. And we've got scholarships available for students who want to take their music education further." The gymnasium went absolutely wild. Students were hugging each other, jumping up and down, chanting, "Eastwood! Eastwood!" Alan held up a hand for quiet. But here's the important part. This program is for everyone. I don't care if you've never touched an instrument in your life, or if you think you have no musical talent. Music isn't about being perfect. It's about expressing yourself, connecting with others, and finding joy in creation. So I want every single one of you to give this a try." He looked directly at Ethan. "Your dad was a veteran, right?" "Yes, sir," Ethan said into the microphone Alan held for him. "What was his name?" "Daniel Cooper." "Well, this program is named after him, the Daniel Cooper Memorial Music Initiative. And it exists because his son had the guts to dream big and ask for help. Never forget that you have that power. Every single one of you can make a difference if you're willing to try." Alan picked up his guitar. "Now, I thought I'd play a couple songs for you, if that's all right." The response was overwhelming. Alan launched into Chattahoochee, and the entire school sang along. Teachers danced with students. Principal Henderson was crying openly. Even Tyler Brennan, standing in the back with his friends, was clapping along, looking genuinely moved. After two more songs, Drive and It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere, Alan ended with a simple message. Be kind to each other. Lift each other up. And remember that the smallest act of courage can change the world. As the assembly ended and students filed out, buzzing with excitement, Olivia grabbed Ethan in a huge hug. "You did this! You actually did this!" "We did this," Ethan corrected. "You believed in me when no one else did." Tyler Brennan approached hesitantly, his usual swagger gone. "Hey, Cooper, that was really cool. What you did?" Ethan nodded, not quite ready to forgive all the bullying, but willing to accept the olive branch. "Thanks. Maybe you could teach me sometime. Guitar, I mean, if you want." "Yeah," Ethan said after a moment. "Maybe I could." As Tyler walked away, Alan Jackson appeared at Ethan's side. "Made a convert out of that one, I think." "Mr. Jackson, I don't know how to thank you," Ethan said, looking up at his hero. Alan knelt down to Ethan's level. "You already did, son. You reminded me why any of this matters. The fame, the money, the success. It's all meaningless if you're not using it to help others. You taught me that, and I should be thanking you." He pulled something from his pocket, a guitar pick. "This is from my first professional show, back in 1989. I want you to have it, and I want you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll keep playing, keep creating, keep being brave enough to ask for what you believe in. The world needs more people like you." Ethan took the guitar pick with trembling hands. "I promise." That night, Ethan sat in his bedroom with his father's guitar. The guitar pick Alan Jackson had given him resting on his desk like a precious gem. He thought about everything that had happened, about how a simple letter had sparked something extraordinary. But deep down, he knew the story wasn't over. It was just beginning. And whatever came next, he was ready. 3 months later, on a cold February afternoon, Eastwood Middle School's music room buzzed with activity. Where there had once been storage shelves filled with outdated textbooks, there now stood racks of guitars, a set of drums, 3 keyboards, and a collection of band instruments. The walls displayed posters of musical legends: Johnny Cash, Dolly Parton, Aretha Franklin, and yes, Alan Jackson, alongside student artwork depicting musical notes and instruments. Ethan sat in a circle with 5 other students, all holding guitars in various stages of learning. Their instructor, Mr. Carlos Rivera, a professional musician in his 40s with decades of performance experience, moved between them, offering guidance and encouragement. "Ethan, show them that chord progression one more time," Mr. Rivera said. "You've really got it down." Ethan demonstrated the sequence, his fingers moving confidently across the frets. The other students, including Tyler Brennan, who'd signed up for lessons in December, watched carefully and tried to follow along. "You make it look easy," Tyler muttered, struggling with the transition between chords. "It's not easy," Ethan assured him. "I've been practicing for 3 years. You've been playing for 2 months. Give yourself time." It was surreal sometimes, helping the kid who'd bullied him for so long. But Tyler had changed. The guitar had given him something positive to focus on, and his anger seemed to have an outlet now. They weren't exactly friends, but they'd reached a kind of mutual respect. Olivia was in the next room, working with the keyboard students. She'd taken to the instrument immediately, her natural musical talent blooming under Mr. Rivera's instruction. Through the open door, Ethan could hear her playing a melody she'd composed herself, something bright and hopeful that made everyone who heard it smile. After class, as Ethan packed up his father's guitar, Principal Henderson appeared in the doorway. "Ethan, can I borrow you for a moment?" In her office, Ethan found Paul Garrett and Jessie Hammond waiting, along with a woman he didn't recognize, professionally dressed, with kind eyes and a tablet in her hands. "Ethan, this is Dr. Amanda Foster," Principal Henderson introduced. "She's from the Nashville School District's Arts Education Department." Dr. Foster shook Ethan's hand. "It's wonderful to meet you, Ethan. Your initiative has sparked something remarkable. The Daniel Cooper Memorial Music Initiative has been so successful here that we're expanding it to 12 schools now, not just 5. 12? Ethan repeated, amazed. 12, she confirmed. And we're seeing incredible results. Students' grades are improving. Discipline problems are down. Teachers report better classroom engagement. And most importantly, kids who felt invisible are finding their voices. Paul spoke up. "Alan wanted you to know that this is just the beginning. He's planning a benefit concert in May, a bigger one than last November, with all proceeds going to expand the program even further." "There's something else," Jessie added with a grin. "Alan wants to know if you'd be willing to perform at that concert." Ethan's eyes went wide. "Perform? Like, on stage? In front of people?" "A couple thousand people, yeah," Paul said. "Just one song. Alan thought maybe you could play something your dad loved. He thinks it would be powerful to show what this program can produce." I don't know if I'm good enough for that," Ethan stammered. "You're plenty good enough," Mr. Rivera said, appearing in the doorway. He'd been listening. "Ethan, you're one of the most naturally talented students I've ever taught. And more than that, you play with heart. That matters more than technical perfection." Principal Henderson nodded. "We believe in you, Ethan, but it's your choice. No pressure." Ethan thought about his father, about all those nights Daniel had played guitar to calm his war-torn nerves, about the legacy of music that had been passed down to him. He thought about Tyler learning chords, about Olivia composing melodies, about all the kids across Nashville who now had access to instruments and instruction because he'd been brave enough to write a letter. "Okay," he said finally. "I'll do it." The months leading up to the May concert were intense. Ethan balanced schoolwork with daily practice, sometimes spending 3 or 4 hours a day with his guitar. Mr. Rivera worked with him on performance techniques, how to handle stage fright, how to connect with an audience, how to recover from mistakes. Olivia helped him choose the song, "Drive" by Alan Jackson, the one his father used to sing, the one that meant everything. Together, they worked out an arrangement that was simpler than the original, but no less emotional. Word spread through the school about Ethan's upcoming performance. Instead of mockery, he found support. Students he'd never spoken to stopped him in the hallways to wish him luck. Even Tyler, in his awkward way, offered encouragement. "You're gonna kill it, Cooper," he said one afternoon after guitar class. "Seriously. Thanks, Tyler. That means a lot. Hey, I never really apologized for being such a jerk to you before. The bullying and all that. I was dealing with stuff at home and I took it out on you. That was wrong." Ethan looked at the bigger boy, seeing something genuine in his expression. "We're good, Tyler. Really." As the concert date approached, Ethan's nervousness grew. He had nightmares about forgetting the words, about his guitar breaking mid-song, about thousands of people laughing at him. But he also felt a strange calm underneath the anxiety. This performance wasn't about him proving he was talented. It was about honoring his father and showing what was possible when people chose kindness over indifference. The night before the concert, Linda sat on Ethan's bed as he practiced one final time. When he finished the song, she was crying softly. "Mom, don't cry. You'll make me nervous. They're good tears, baby." She wiped her eyes. "Your father would be so incredibly proud. Not just of your guitar playing, but of the man you're becoming." "I'm only 12, Mom. Not really a man yet." "You're more of a man than some people twice your age." She kissed his forehead. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be amazing." The concert was held at the Ryman Auditorium, the legendary venue known as the Mother Church of Country Music. As Ethan walked into the historic building for sound check, he felt the weight of the place's history. Johnny Cash had performed here, Dolly Parton, Patsy Cline, and now, somehow, Ethan Cooper from East Nashville. Alan Jackson found him backstage, looking nervous. "Hey there, Ethan. You ready for this?" "I think so." "Maybe. I don't know." Alan laughed. "That's about how I feel before every show. And I've been doing this for 35 years. The nerves mean you care, and that's good. Just remember, everyone in that audience is on your side. They want you to succeed." During soundcheck, Ethan ran through Drive twice. The acoustics of the Ryman were incredible, making his simple guitar sound rich and full. Mr. Rivera stood in the front row, giving thumbs up and encouragement. That evening, as the audience filled the venue, Ethan waited in the wings with his mother and Olivia. They could hear the crowd's excitement, the anticipation building. The concert would feature several Nashville artists, all donating their time and talent. But Ethan was opening the show, a decision Alan had made specifically. "I want people to see right away what this program creates," Alan had explained. "I want them to understand why this matters." Finally, the house lights dimmed, the crowd quieted, and a spotlight hit center stage where a single microphone and stool waited. Alan Jackson walked out to thunderous applause. "Good evening, Nashville. Thank you all for being here tonight. Before we get to the music, I want to introduce you to someone special. About 6 months ago, I received a letter from a 12-year-old boy. That letter changed my life and launched a program that's now helping hundreds of kids across this city find their voice through music." He gestured toward the wings. "That boy is here tonight, and he's going to play you something. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ethan Cooper." On shaking legs, Ethan walked onto the stage. The applause was deafening. He sat on the stool, adjusted the microphone, and positioned his father's guitar. The spotlight was bright and hot. His hands trembled. He looked out into the audience and found his mother's face in the front row. She was crying and smiling simultaneously, her hand over her heart. Beside her, Olivia gave him an enthusiastic thumbs up. Ethan took a deep breath and leaned into the microphone. "This song was my dad's favorite." He was a veteran who loved Alan Jackson's music, and it helped him through some really dark times. He died 3 years ago, but every time I play this, I feel close to him again. This is Drive. He began to play. His fingers found the chords automatically, muscle memory taking over. And then he started to sing. His voice was young and not professionally trained, but it was sincere. Every word came from a place of authentic emotion. Love for his father, gratitude for the opportunities he'd been given, hope for the future. As he sang about fathers and sons, about growing up and holding on to precious moments, there wasn't a dry eye in the venue. Ethan didn't see the audience filming on their phones. He didn't notice the professional camera crew Alan had hired to document the evening. He was lost in the music, in the memory of his father's voice singing this same song, in the bittersweet joy of keeping that memory alive. When he reached the final chorus, "You always hear everybody saying that life turns on a dime, but you can't really know what that means till you turn on the drive and watch a son turn into a man." His voice cracked with emotion, but he pushed through, finishing strong. The final chord rang out in the historic venue. There was a moment of absolute silence. Then the Ryman Auditorium exploded with applause. People were on their feet, cheering, crying, clapping until their hands hurt. The ovation went on, and Ethan sat on that stool, overwhelmed, tears streaming down his face. Alan Jackson appeared on stage and pulled Ethan into a hug. "That," he said into the microphone, "is why we do this. That's why music matters. Thank you, Ethan." As Ethan walked off stage, his mother grabbed him in a fierce embrace. "Your father heard that. I know he did." The rest of the concert was a blur. Amazing performances by incredible artists, all celebrating music and its power to change lives. But Ethan's opening performance became the moment everyone remembered. The one that social media shared thousands of times. The one that made people understand what the Daniel Cooper Memorial Music Initiative was really about. A week later, Ethan received an envelope in the mail. Inside was a letter written in neat handwriting. "Dear Ethan, I've been thinking about what to say to you since that night at the Ryman. I've played hundreds of concerts in my career, but I don't think I've ever been as moved as I was by your performance. You didn't just play a song. You shared your heart with everyone in that room. Your father would be so proud, not just because you can play guitar, but because you've become someone who uses their gifts to help others. That's the real measure of a person. I want you to know that the music program is permanent now. The school district has committed to funding it long-term, with additional support from myself and several other artists you inspired. What you started with one letter will continue to grow and help kids for generations. Keep playing. Keep being brave. Keep making your dad proud. Your friend, Alan." Ethan carefully folded the letter and placed it in a box with his other treasures. His father's dog tags, the guitar pick from Alan, photos of his dad. Then he picked up his guitar and played, just for himself, just for joy. Outside, spring was turning Nashville green. Flowers bloomed in yards all across the city. In schools from East Nashville to West End, kids who'd never imagined they could make music were learning guitar chords, piano scales, and drum rhythms. They were finding their voices, literally and figuratively. They were discovering that they mattered, that they had something valuable to contribute. And it had all started because one 11-year-old boy had been brave enough to write a letter asking not for himself, but for others. Linda came home from her nursing shift to find Ethan on the porch, playing in the golden afternoon light. She sat beside him and listened, not saying anything, just being present. They had struggled and would continue to struggle. Money would always be tight. Life would always be challenging. But they had each other. They had music, and they had hope. "I love you, Mom," Ethan said between songs. "I love you too, sweetheart. More than all the music in the world." As the sun set over Nashville, casting long shadows across the modest neighborhood, Ethan Cooper played his father's guitar and thought about how one small act of courage had rippled outward, touching more lives than he could count. He thought about Tyler learning to channel his anger into creation, about Olivia composing beautiful melodies, about hundreds of kids he'd never meet who now had access to instruments and instruction. He thought about his father, about the man who'd served his country and fought his demons and loved his family with everything he had. Daniel Cooper's story had ended too soon, but his legacy would continue through his son and through every child who picked up an instrument through the program that bore his name. The guitar strings vibrated under Ethan's fingers, creating sound waves that traveled through the air, invisible but real, connecting past to present, pain to healing, silence to song. And in that moment, everything felt exactly as it should be, because nobody had believed what Alan Jackson would do after receiving that letter. They couldn't have imagined the transformation that would follow, the lives that would change, the hope that would spread. But Ethan had believed. He'd believed enough to try, and that had made all the difference.